Welcome to Wellness Radio with Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher as your host. Her show discusses topics of health, wellness, and spirituality, and is about discovering your place in this great universe, from your cells to the cosmos. Along with her guest, in casual conversation, she strives to ask the difficult questions that may be holding you back from a vibrant life, and shares new ideas that may inspire you to make a change in your life that you only can see in your dreams. And now, here is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wellness Radio. This is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher, and it's a pleasure to have you with us here this evening. Tonight we are going to be talking about an empath. Who are you? What are you all about? What is your world about? Are you bumping into things? Perhaps you feel like you just can't get yourself off of the floor some days. And still others, you say, where did that come from? Who is it? What is it? What is going on with me? Many people will say, I feel things around people. I sense things when I go to the grocery store. Oh my gosh, I noticed something, and it makes me not feel very good. Maybe I'm taking on their feelings, or perhaps it's affecting me. Are they in my space and time? What we really need to do is decipher what is an empath all about, what is energy all about, perhaps your aura, and maybe even so about how you can navigate the world today. My guest is Suzanne Worthley. Her book is Confident Empath, a complete guide to multidimensional empathing and energetic protection. Suzanne, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Oh, my goodness, it's so great to hear your voice again. So, yes, thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you because sometimes, when we do this type of work, just as you and I do, we kind of need to be able to say, hey, listen to my story, and hey, do you have a story too? Don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. And it's fun because oftentimes when healers get together and have chats, the stories are similar, and that always makes me kind of giggle.
Yeah, but it's so vitally important because let's talk about the life of the empath and people who are open energetically. How many of them always hear, you're crazy, I don't hear that, I don't know what you're talking about, you need time on the couch. Haven't we all heard that in our life?
Right? And the empath, the poor empath is so exhausted, right? I mean, like you said, can't get off of the floor because it's just, it's full-blown exhaustion. Yeah.
I always think of it when I walk into Walmart. As soon as I hit the front door, I kind of get a read on the place, whether I'm going to be able to make it or not, to go through. And when I get in there, it's like, oof, I'm already hanging on the basket. And this is going to be a short trip, And there's one part of the store I'm going, oh, my gosh, what is going on back here? It's just the energy is so dense, and so difficult. What I found also, too, Suzanne, was about the idea of it was great to know about the energies and their identity and where they came from, but sometimes it was even better to just say, it's energy, and let it pass. Do you think that's the point where we sometimes want to say, can it be easier than this journey I'm on?
Well, I think the human being needs education and information so that they dial down the fear factor in any step through life. And I think this is why the information coming forward in book form or podcast form or radio formats, this is a wonderful subject to start talking about more is energy, because we are all energy and it is everywhere. And energy gets to be good, bad, and ugly because it just is. There's really no judgment on energy, but boy, without educating yourself, it can be a scary world out there right now.
Yeah, it sure can. I mean, how many times do you sit down at a table and you go, man, I just don't even want to eat anymore, or you get sick, or you feel like, oh, I don't know what to do. It's so interesting, Suzanne, I had sat down at a table with my relatives, who I hadn't seen for probably maybe 15, 20 years. And the minute my aunt sat down next to me, within, I would say, less than 2 seconds, first thing she said to me was, hey, Ginny, do you see the angel of death? I see him all the time. And I'm going, oh, dear. And her and I had never had these conversations ever, But here it was coming out of her mouth. And I'm going, awesome. And I said, yeah, I do. And then she said, oh, yeah, cool. And she turned around and just went back to her meal. To this day, she does not remember saying that to me. Don't you think
are
sometimes...
you kidding?
Yeah. Don't you think sometimes we say we are feeling, sensing, hearing, knowing on all planes. And when an empath really gets out there, it's like you have let go of that cover on the pistachio and you're just free falling, don't you think?
Yeah, and sometimes you feel like the nut that has been exposed under the shell, right? Because you do often, you oftentimes say, do you hear that? Do you see that? Or I just felt that, and the other faces are looking at you like you're a little bit bonkers. So sometimes the empath road can be very lonely also, especially when you're the psychic empath. Yeah. That's tough.
Let's talk about the definition which you share in your book of an empath first, and then what empathing is all about. So perhaps maybe people could say, I hear this, I sense this, and they're in either phase. But definitely we want to mark either one is not good, bad, or ugly. Either one is wherever you are today. So we're just sharing where we are today. So can you share your definitions?
Yeah, and I share, with take what resonates and toss what doesn't, because I'm not here for everybody's truth either. I just give the information, and it's important for us to own it if we choose. I first would like to say that the body, the human body, is designed as a birthright, the sense of empathy. And empathy is coined as I walk in your shoes. It's our oneness tool. It's our connection tool of I can feel on behalf of you. But the empath, when we empath, we not only walk in the shoes, but we steal the shoes. We take those shoes, we run away with those shoes, and we wear them until they actually wear us down. There's a vast difference between empathy, which is a beautiful connective center of feel, and empathing, which is a detrimental energy of transferring back and forth, which is a lose-lose. And so they're distinctly different, and oftentimes people confuse those two.
Yeah. And, sometimes people will say, what does it mean to feel? And I always share the story of recently my uncle. He had a very difficult life. He didn't want to go to God. He kept getting to the edge, and he says, no, not now, and found people to save him. However, one night, I was like, I feel like I'm having a stroke. Oh, my gosh. I went in the bathroom. I was checking out all of my stroke parameters, Is it you raise your eyebrows, you raise your cheeks, you raise your shoulders. I was doing all my neuro checks. And I said, oh, my gosh, I'm just going to let this play through, which I always say. And I said, is this mine or is it someone else's? And as soon as I said that, I just said, I'm really tired. I'm going to go to sleep. I'll be okay. It's all right. If I don't get up in the morning, we're okay. However, when I got up in the morning, I had a call that my uncle had passed away that night, and that was exactly his symptoms. And I went, awesome. Got it.
Right.
He was coming to me to tell me he was going, And when he came to me to tell me he was going, I felt every bit of it, how he went. And then instantly what I did, and this is another extension of being an empath, as you share in your book, is about being able, how then do you love and care for the energy that did come to you, but then release it and say, I'll walk with you to God, or I'll release you in the ocean, or I will turn around and just get this energy, go take an Epsom salt bath. You need to honor the process, don't you think?
Yeah, you say so many of the words that I use, and that's just so lovely to hear. I in the book, designate that exact phrase that you used, is this mine? This is one of the most critical steps for the empath to move through the process, is the identification of ownership. And this is usually, until someone is aware of it and or trained in it, they are not even aware that this is a question, much less do they go through that process of, is this mine? If it's not mine, whose is it? If it's mine, is it mine now? Et cetera, et cetera. So you're actually saying the exact things from the book. And then additionally, you're saying the words that I use in terms of honor. Honor is such a huge piece for my work, in my belief system, in other people's journey. He gets to die. I mean, I work a lot with death, as do you. We understand that journey of people get to die. They get to be sick. They get to have pain. And when we understand that with the deepest of our heart space, we give them the room to be who they are with no conditions attached. And I think that's when honor plays such a big role in this world.
You know, I can honestly say there's been a few patients that I've had where they said they had a terrible disease and they needed to come to me. I was like their last resort. And my answer was, awesome. Awesome. I'm so glad you came here. And they're like, what? I'm sick. I said, it's awesome because your body and your soul has been seeking something this entire lifetime. And now you're ready to say, what's next? Because you found me.
Yes.
And don't you think that is so simple, but so much like, it's almost as if you've gone into a garden and someone opened the door to welcome you in for tea. That's almost what that feels like, if you allow it to feel like that.
Yeah. And I also have been really blessed and fortunate to do so many death experiences as well in terms of coming to alignment with the higher self, coming to alignment with your own Akashic or your book record or whatever you want to call all those interchangeable words, God source. And so it's just so unbelievable to know that these are transitionary lives, right? I mean, this is a transmutation, and it's a beautiful opportunity to learn more. So, yeah, I mean, this world that we live in is so vast and infinite, and the more people open their eyes to the world of energy, period, meaning the multi-dimensions that we talk about in the book, are really, really important because we realize we're all one. It's all the same stuff. It's just different playing fields.
Right. Let's talk for a second about multidimensional. The other day I had an issue, and I don't really recall what it was, but I distinctly remember saying, I'm in the present, you're in another space and time. You don't exist. Because it was something that I was feeling or hurting or whatever it was. But I just had to emphasize that I am in the present, and whatever the story is that's playing out is not in the present. Don't you think sometimes when all of our timelines, we're in the year 2023, many people are starting to open up to the idea of timelines, and they're saying they don't really have a grasp on what the word means, how it plays out. Myself, I live in New Orleans. I can walk down any street. My timeline will play. I know who I am, what I was doing, and where I was, and what year it was. And it does this consistently. You know, many times I go to different places, these things happen. So I think when we do that, we come home and we say, oh, I don't feel good. But that I don't feel good, maybe from a different timeline or a different energy that you picked up. In other words, it doesn't have to be someone or something else. It could be part of you in another space and time too, right?
Oh, for sure. And I think this subject in and of itself is why I chose to put in some really deep, important stories from clients where I have had the experiences of multidimensionality, because the way that I do my space and land healing is very quantum, and so I have the ability to go in and find the multiple timelines, as do you, it sounds like, and to experience them. And the brothel story within this book is fascinating because my physical Suzanne body in this present moment stepped into a place that threw everything back to the early 1900s, late 1800s, where to the extent of where I could feel the wallpaper on the wall when the actual wall was bare. And it was so phenomenal. But again, it was fascinating and wonderful, but 9 out of 10 people are not going to necessarily even know, A, that exists, but more so, B, that this can be dangerous because the horrors and the pain and the sadness and the angst that held within that space still is there until someone transmutes that. And so, gosh, we slap another wall of paint up and we put a chiropractor office in there or an insurance company, and all of a sudden everybody's sick and we don't know why. And this is really dangerous stuff. So I think it's great that we're talking about this stuff.
You know, it's so interesting, too. A lot of times when I work with patients with homeopathy, I'll ask them their symptoms, and then I'll go look them up or whatever and see where the stories of the other cases of ancient times, so to speak. And a lot of them are rooted in the 1800s, 1700s with yellow fever, dengue, malaria, all these other things. And if you sit down and energetically ask a person, tell me more about your symptoms, you will say, that's a symptom of malaria. That's a symptom of yellow fever. I mean, there's been times, when I've been sick and I said, what's going on? And what I love is I sit with my phone and I Google different things that come to my mind. Yellow fever came to my mind. I went back. Yellow fever in New Orleans. What was the year? Went back to that. I said, I was probably here. And then I worked to clear that, and then the physical things started to dissipate. But I think it's yeah,
cool.
It's cool, but it's very. I think, Suzanne, we have to really say it's flipping the coin. The way in which we were human beings in this world 10, 20, 30 years ago is not how you and I are today.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Right. Because I think that we now have the language and the wherewithal to put it together and to speak about it, what we've been going through for all these decades and all of these eons of our soul's lifetime journey. And once you start to do that, you're able to say, I can see it at any time. People have said to me, write your book. And I'm like, dude, I have no idea how to do that because my stuff is so exponentially out there. It would sound so scattered. I couldn't even put two words together. But you can catch me on the radio, just as, when you write your stuff down in your books, you put your stories in, but you also, too, still have it where we're sharing with people how to take their unique experience and we can guide them along the path. We're not there to tell them to follow us. We're there to show them how we've done it. But we've also said, now you tell me, where are you today? That's key. That's the biggest key out of your whole book, don't you think?
Oh, gosh, yeah. The ownership and the spiritual and personal responsibility is really primary in this whole journey. And we have been programmed as humans for so long to be able to stick the responsibility on someone else. It's your fault. I love when people say, you made me feel bad. The action may be poor, but I choose how I feel, etc. And so this whole process of how we're changing at such a rapid pace right now in love and light is really causing what we see as chaos and breakdown. But really what it's offering is us to look deeper and to take on a personal responsibility for our journey and not just ride the wave, to really be in charge of co-creating that wave and deciding where and how we land. And so, these are really awesome, opportune times to find healing, not only for now, but like you're saying, my past life, my soul life, my biology, my lineage, my soul pod lineage, etc. This is big stuff now. It's not a little game anymore. It's big. As I had said probably on the show maybe about 12 years ago, they were starting to talk about, coming out of 3D into 4D. And I'm going, dude, I'm in the 23rd dimension. I don't know where you all are, but I wish you'd get your stuff together. And I never knew where that came out of my mouth, but it came out. That is funny. That's funny. I love that.
But you know what? It is funny because, why? Sometimes when I see, hear, sense things, it's like I don't even need to put the words to it. It just has already been processed and it's already gone through. So I think now that people are starting to say, you mean I'm so much more than this? I mean, for myself, I only see myself as a ball of glitter in the cosmos. If you ask me, even my web person says, Jeanette, you need to write your bio. And I wrote down I am. Let me tell you, it's been 10 years. I still haven't written it, because I said, what am I going to write? I'm a ball of glitter and somebody's going to take that. I don't think so, because
I love that. I would take that.
Right. But, I think it's also, too, don't you think, Suzanne, that as an empath or as you start doing energy work, you start to shed the parts of the human that became your identity, your legacy, or that who you were attached to.
This is literally what I was talking about with clients this week and is a whole part of this book as well. We do a workshop on this book, and we just did one about 2 weeks or so ago, and they're very powerful. And one of the most moving exercises during that workshop is when we really start to share our story. and we break down our so-called identity that we have created from learned beliefs. And we start to see that our story is just a story. And it is amazing that the healing that happens when we start to break through that story, you know. And it's just such a great freedom when you find out you just are a shard or a fractal of the I am. That's a big responsibility, though, right?
Right. Well, because the ball of glitter lives inside of a wetsuit, I always say the ball of glitter, it was on a trajectory. It intersected with an ancestral lineage, and you became an avatar. And then all of a sudden, that avatar at birth downloaded all these files of the ancestral lineage or the time and place, whatever. And then you took on a wetsuit, and it had, your wetsuit was your human body. On the front of it are badges, and those badges are, I am a woman, I am a man, I am a mother, father, brother, sister, then the jobs you do, then it takes on the scars and the dents of all of the things that you've been through. So I think every time as an empath looks out, they're looking out through this filter. And you have to think about it, because are you looking through your filter and your stuff that is on your wetsuit? Everything is being scoped by that. But when you get to a point where, just as I've been with the I am, there's nothing else there. There are no badges on my wetsuit. In fact, I don't wear a wetsuit. I always say I'm dancing in the ethers. So when you get to that point, though, then you become light. And those other things you can see, feel, sense, and touch for 100% of who they are and what they are about. And that's the place that everybody's questing to be, so to speak. However, let me tell you, there's a whole lot of work in between those two spaces and times of the old human with the wetsuit and the badges to be able to fly free. And that's different.
Yeah. I love when I left my corporate job many, many years ago, and I ran into a bunch of my corporate friends about 6-7 months after that, and they said, gee, Suzanne, it must be nice just, meditating all day and just kind of, just floating around and being zen. And I thought I was going to fall off my chair. I'm like, this is the hardest job I've ever had in my entire incarnation, is becoming who I truly am and dropping the V and the P out from behind my business card name. It took me a really long time to realize the story was just silly. And it is something that is really worth the work, but you can't tell anyone that. They have to experience it for themselves and choose every step of the way and understand that there's not a finish line. There's no finish line to this work. It just is. And I think we are so programmed to think, well, now what do I have to do to fix this? And it's not a fix. It's a presence. And that's why the word present is a gift. So, yeah, it's a whole different mindset, and it's a whole different world. But, gosh, you can navigate the ridiculousness going on, all the fear, all the nastiness, all the hatred, with beauty and love so easily once you set your mind to a different fuel. And that's what the book really pushes. You're either working in fear fuel for your vehicle, or you're working in love fuel for your vehicle. And that's basically how that goes.
Right, because fear is the filters. It's the filters that you're looking through. I mean, everything is shading your experience. I mean, that is what it is. But also, too, I think, Suzanne, we do need to talk on this, that you and I are definitely in different spaces and times. And many people will say, I can understand that, but how is your life going on? And you and I can honestly say, when things happen in this human world right now, we still experience them as they are. We're not perfect. I'm a doctor. I get sick. You're an energy healer. You get dinged, I mean, it just is what it is. But to understand, okay, awesome, now we see it. You're in awareness. What do I do next? Look at it for what it is. And then how do I heal and be able to recover so that I can honor who they were, what they were that came about me, and then be able to fill in the space and releasing both of us. So in essence, if a spirit comes to you, and just as they come to me all the time, and you just honor them and say, I honor you for walking along with me on this path. Thank you so much for the journey. Now I release you. It's not just for you. This is not a selfish journey. Empaths are not selfish. by any means. It's a co-thing. You're doing it with someone, something else, some other form of energy. Mm-hmm. So once you understand that, you say, you must honor it, love it, release it. Don't you think?
I had a really hard lesson, yet good lesson in that one time. Sometimes when I do my own, I'm very galactic in a lot of the work that I do, multi-parallel universes, et cetera. And I can tick off some really big energies out there sometimes when I'm doing some certain grid work and such. And I remember one time that a really dark essence came into my room to challenge the work that I was doing that was very, very nefarious. And I thought for a second, oh man, Suzanne, maybe you were a little too big for your own pants here, you know. And then I pulled my bootstraps up and I said, no, absolutely not. I am able to do this. This is my space. Per universal law, you are not invited into this. I command you to leave. And it did. And I said, I will allow you back when I'm ready, when I am ready to do it. So they came knocking at my door that night at 3 a.m. And I said, give me a couple moments. And I locked my room down. And I invited that really draconian energy in. And what Source taught me is they wormholed me through all kinds of dimensions and back to the God Source itself, almost like a near-death experience. But in that, Dr. Jeanette, was the most fascinating feeling of, I don't have to fear you because we're all one. I don't have to be scared of you because I am you. This is why politics makes me laugh when people, you know, spout out, I hate so-and-so. Hate is a really difficult thing to run through your body. We are all the people that we dislike. And once I found that oneness multidimensionally, it was so much easier for me to find oneness in 3-dimension here because there's just a letting go. It just is. And it really becomes so smooth to navigate your day because you don't have to hang on to it. Yeah. It's amazing.
You know, it's so interesting you said about that story, Suzanne, because I have a voodoo store here in New Orleans, and about maybe 20 years ago I went there, and the woman at the counter she says, who are you? And I said that I was a naturopath, and she said, we don't like your kind around here. And I went, oh, okay. And then I kind of attached to what she said, and from there for the next 2 to 5 years, I was getting death threats. All kinds of negative energy was around, blah, blah, blah. But it had nothing to do with her. It had to do with my perception of what she said. I called that energy in. She did not call that energy in. To this day, she is like a really cool person. And you know, like I said, I had sent her some pictures and stuff, and I talked to her and all. And people always say, but that's dark energy. You can't go there. And I said, like in the beginning, I saw her as a skeleton and with big round eyes and dark energy when I first went there when she said that. However, now 20 years later, she's evolved to me, and I see her as this bright light with she's a darker-skinned woman, and now I see her as this bright light with light-colored hair just going around in the field, and she's just a lovely little child in my eyes, and her and I talk. So I think the idea is that it's up to us to decide. But here I think is the clinker. And this is definitely a clinker. People will say, oh, you need to reframe, you need to reproject, you need to blah, 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 blah. Here's the answer. You can't just do it. You can't just turn around and say, oh, I see dark, blah, 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 and come home. I'm light, I don't see dark, I'm light. It doesn't work. Because what you've done is then you've traded in your fear of the dark, you've traded it in for a false illusion of where you want it to be. And let me tell you, those two can go at it with swords like nobody's business because one of them is going to win. And what's going to win is the idea that you had in the first place, because when you had that in the first place, it is what it is. It's just that you didn't see it. Right?
And it's such an evolution of our work, I think, because, you know, way back when I was starting, there wasn't a whole lot of mentors for the kind of work that we do, especially in the astral plane, right? And it was always about banishing that evil spirit, or gosh, when we did paranormal, I'd have to remove that ghost. And as I evolved and started to understand that dark has a right to be here. This is part of the laws of the universe. Their polarity and duality is part of the laws of the universe. And it is important for us to understand our mindset and our perspective on what the dark is, because in essence, dark can also be the Mother God frequency in a beautiful, wonderful, nurturing way, or it can be / so-called evil dark. It can be a numerous amount of things. So to educate yourself is paramount. But to transmute differently, meaning I no longer have to remove anything. I just raise the vibration of myself or the home or the building or the land. I raise the vibration and honor the fact that the dark has a right to be there if it so chooses, because it's not up to me to judge that dark, if that makes some sense.
Well, I've always said, if you look at the yin and the yang symbol in Chinese medicine, it's not gray. We're not all supposed to be in balance. It is just not the way it's supposed to be. Sorry. A lot of people believe it is, but I say it isn't. Because you can't stand on the head of a pin of a point and say, I'm always in balance. I'm always in balance. And I'm going, phew, no, you're not. There you go.
I love this one. I work with light. I'm a light worker. I only work with light. And I say, good luck with that, because you'll learn someday that there gets to be the other. So this is a process of really learning, and I think that's what's so beautiful about this journey is the deeper you get into your own self-awareness and self-remembering, we realize that I can honor just about anything and not have to fear it, because it's coming from inside of me, not outside of me.
Well,
so,
also,
yeah,
too,
it's a big difference.
Sometimes when you think about the concepts of God, many people say, I don't like the word God. I'll say, fine, source energy. Well, there's people out there that are doing things that we will say is bad or wrong or whatever. And we tend to be able to say, well, I don't want to be around it. However, I say perhaps they are there to be a trigger. Perhaps they are there to trigger something inside of you to find something in you. Perhaps they are there for you to be able to learn compassion. Maybe they are there for you to be able to know how to knock down walls. Maybe they are there for you to see, I don't have to fear. Or maybe they're there to say, can you hit down my walls? And we'll see what's there. I always see dark as, to me, I don't see dark and light per se. But when people come at me with it, I say, I find all of my light in the darkness. And they're like, what? I say, I find all my light in the darkness. I've been at the bottom of the black hole. I've been in human reality. I've been homeless. I've been without things. I've had very dangerous things happen to me. I've had out of body. I've had end of life. You take it. I've had it all. And the answer is that through every single one of those, it was like awesome. That's all I have to say is awesome.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to me. I love this world that I am privileged enough to call a career, because the more I study, the more I remember, and the more that I allow myself to remember by just simply being guided through my own knowing, it just exponentially keeps opening up newer and newer realms. And for me, that's been awesome. And yet, I will say, and I want to say this for the empaths, sometimes lonely, because there are a lot of things that are true, especially psychic empath, a truly psychic empath, will have encounters that oftentimes they feel like I have to keep to myself or someone's going to put me in the rubber room. And, you're talking to someone who is very, very comfortable now saying, I do a lot of off-planet work. I do a lot of work on ships. I see them 100% astrally. I can travel. I can do all of that. And, by the way, I did it when I was 7. It was really common for me at 7. And so we come into these bodies, some of us, and it doesn't make us cool or special or different. Some of us come into these bodies with these missions on this planet to do this work with these vehicles that we call the human form. And it's important for us to honor that. And not everybody does the mission. It doesn't make us cooler or better, but it sure gives us an opportunity to have some wild experiences. So, Don't you think sometimes when you hit the wall or when something happens, you say, is this my mission? Or is this something that I need to figure out for myself or whatever? It's sort of like when I got really sick and I had to go to the doctor. Everybody was pestering me to go. I said, okay, I'm going to shut them all up. I'm going to go, And I went to the doctor, and I was sitting there talking to him for like
think it was probably an hour or so. And I came out with a medication that I knew I wasn't going to take, so I threw it away. And, what came out of the idea is that the doctor needed to learn from me. I was on a mission. It had nothing to do with me.
Definitely.
Zero.
I call those mini missions because I think these are mini or smaller versions of our mission. I have known my so-called mission since I was very, very young, and that is an off-planet situation that I work on, but I do believe in the mini missions, like you're saying, where our humanness comes in contact with others for them to either activate or learn or question or plant a seed.
Right.
And I also believe that we can get thwarted. I believe our sickness or our getting hurt oftentimes is about an agenda trying to stop you from so-called mission work. And I think those at this point in time, I'm never scared of. I kind of get a chuckle out of them at this point. So these are all things that are really experiences that one wants to sit with to get out of that fear state again, because you said something earlier about, being like a curse or being told something and you believe something and your mind does that. I've had lots of clients say, I'm cursed. And I'm like, that's because you're creating the curse. The curse is not the curse. You are creating the curse.
Right.
So we're powerful, So, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Well, I think so, too, is that the human language gets us wrapped up. If you and I could have this conversation with people just on an energy level, people would be clamoring and lining up at the door, but it's human language that's getting us stuck because the definition of some words is just like, oh, man, that is just not it. Like I have this, what I call kick it to the curb words. I've got a list. Suffering is one. People would always say to me, oh, I'm so sorry for all your suffering when they share your story. And I'm going, one day I literally, Suzanne, I sat down with my cell phone and I looked up define suffering. I didn't know what it meant. You know what I mean? I had no idea. I did not know what she was talking about, and I didn't know what it meant. It didn't even turn over. It didn't even turn over a piece of hair on my head. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
So, don't you think that I think a lot of the words like light, dark, black, curse, people, energy, all of this stuff really freaks people out?
Yep. And one of the words I work with the empath on is even the word try. That one just drives my, it just drives me to say, please put a big X through that, because the moment that someone says try or need to or can't or should, those are all fuel that are working in fear. But mostly try has, like, I perceive it in my brain as 3 to 4 dots after that, and then a big fat word that says BUT in bold with exclamation points that then brings me to a place that I then tear myself down because I'm trying to lose weight, but I am not doing it well enough. I haven't done it good enough. I haven't lost enough. So if we even change that vernacular to something like, I'm working on it. Hey, I'm working on it, because I either am or I'm not, right? So I'm working on it. This gives the empowerment back to the voice, which is so critical right now for that throat chakra, is to own my power in my words. And so these are things that I catch in the client intakes a lot.
Right. Yeah. But you know what also, too, I want to talk about this in closing. A lot of people are saying, well, there's a lot of teachers who are out there now teaching me about the word no. And I'm of the class, I guess, maybe wherever I am, no doesn't resonate with me either. Because it's just, once you're in that space, and there's something coming at you, and some people will say, tell it no not to come in. Mine is just, I just smile, light, and radiate, and it goes away. So, in essence, no does not really show up to me very much. Even my daughter said to me, well, you could say no. And I'm like, what? It doesn't filter in my brain again,
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just don't understand it, you know what I mean? So I just I do what I can. I just move through things, and definitely, don't get me wrong, I get human days where I'm screaming no sometimes, but 90% of the time, it doesn't show up. So do you think sometimes... teaching will take us, or sometimes people will say the teaching of some people was like, oh, well, I'm in the light. Everything else is a no to me. And they get really walled up into this own little prism of kind of glass of their own, and they can't even, they're disconnected from everything then, right?
Because I think what you're saying in a bigger picture is it's a this or a that mentality. It's a this or a that. And when you get further into this world, it's all of it, and it just doesn't matter. That said, however, for the empath that's in training, I do think the word no for toxic boundaries is a bit different because they don't understand how to hold neutral quite yet until, and if they are not confident and skilled quite yet, no is a step forward in terms of saying, you know, I need you to come over here and do this tonight. And you're saying, well, gee, I have concert tickets, so no, I'm not going to do that. You know, for the empath that's in the bridge of things, I think that concept or that idea of standing a ground with be able to say, that is not my truth right now. That's not what I'm going to do right now. And that word for that particular time period may be a no in my opinion, but I get totally what you're saying. It's that neutral zone, you know, it just is. It's that just is zone. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think also, too, in closing, Suzanne, we can say that the world out there in the year 2023 is definitely, there's a whole lot of stuff going on. I mean, you can see it. If you think it's just going on with humans, it's going on the earth. Look at all the tornadoes, the fires, the derailments, the volcanoes, the earthquakes. Pay attention to what nature is doing. So really what's happening is this earth that we are on is vibrating at a higher frequency. You know, people always said to me, you need to be grounded. You need to go out and hug a tree. And I'm going, I'm not going out and hugging no tree, and I'm not going to be grounded because the earth is rising too. So I'm going to be separate from it and above and fly in my own space as we each incrementally raise our own awareness, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's so vitally important because even in your work, you don't want to be attached to a guru, you don't want to be a follower, and you don't want to be stuck to some kind of tool that's going to have you chained to the earth, right?
And it's really important to understand that we are working with the earth and the plant and animal kingdom. Those dimensions of 1, 2 are part of our 3, and it's critical for us to understand dimensional frequencies now. But yeah, everything in the spin factor has changed. I mean, that wasn't even a primary thing on the news, for gosh sakes, when it happened in January. The whole Earth mantle reversed spin, and we don't even know that's happening to our bodies. So this is stuff that's everywhere multidimensionally, and the more we all talk about it, I think the more we're going to gift everyone some knowledge. So thank you for allowing me to share, right? I mean, it's been great.
Yes, I'm so glad to have you. Suzanne, can you share with the listeners how to find out more information about your work? That would be wonderful.
Yeah, thanks for asking. It is basically everything is on my website, and it's just my first initial and last name. So it's SWORTHLEY.com. You can find all of this book, Confident Empath, and my first book is Energy Healer's Book of Dying. That's on there as well, as are they on Amazon or anything else that you Google, so you can find those there. But on my website has all kinds of free information, free meditations and classes, and an online community called Vibe. We have a webcast called Energy Unleashed podcast, and so lots of stuff going on. So thank you for letting me share all that.
So glad to have you. We thank you so much, Suzanne, for being with us, because as we know, we all have to dance in the ethers at some time. So what we just did today was reflected what it looks like from up here, right?
Right. Yes, definitely.
Well, thank you so much. If you'd like to find out more information about Suzanne Worthley, again, her book is Confident Empath, A Complete Guide to Multidimensional Empathing and Energetic Protection. Please do click on the link on the bottom of today's show page to go directly to her website for more information. And it really is about being able to say, what am I seeing, hearing, sensing? Find other people. Go outside of your tribe. Get out of the weeds, so to speak. When you're on your phone, clear all your history, start a new revelation. Be able to say, what does this mean? What am I feeling? And you will definitely find a thread in your own tapestry. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher. Until tomorrow, have a great day.
Today we discussed many life-changing concepts. Who do you turn to, and how do you know what is best when faced with a health crisis? Dr. Jeanette is a patient advocate. She listens to the patient, the doctors, and the family, clarifies the health issues and concerns, then helps the patient make the best choices going forward. If you would like help implementing change into your life and health, we can talk and see where you are stuck and how to improve the quality of your life. Check the link on the bottom of today's show page or visit dr-jeanette-gallagher.com to schedule a phone appointment today.